Let's talk about the offensive and defensive lines here. You made an observation about, even if Devin Brown gets in the game, is he in there with starters up front? I'm of the opinion that Ohio State's starting offensive line should play every single possible rep because I think they need it. Josh Simmons, Josh Fryer, Donovan Jackson, Matt Jones, Carson Hinsman, they have got to figure it out. And they haven't been atrocious, but they have not nearly been as impressive as I've hoped and frankly come to expect from an Ohio State offensive line. I'm interested to see if Ryan Day wants to use Luke Montgomery or maybe even Tegra Shabola. Does he start looking at other options? What would cause him to say, okay, I've seen enough. It's time to figure it out and give somebody else a shot. Josh Simmons in particular had a couple of critical penalties last week. So even some of the missed assignments, sometimes you can get past that. But, penalties are really costly. And Ryan Day talks a lot about, playing a clean game. I just wonder how long the leash is with any of those guys and whether they trust their depth enough to have somebody else take a shot if they don't want one of those guys in the starting lineup. So I think this is a huge week for the offensive line.
You got to think the leash is getting short, right? Like, this is 2 weeks of the same answers after the game of like, hey, we need to improve our physicality and we need to, get better and continue to get better. And you just haven't seen it yet. And had a good observation, brought up yesterday is like the line also almost looks like they're still in camp mode. And what does that mean? Well, in practice and in camp, it's not physical at all. Like, it's the defensive, your scout team's in pads, or it has like a little, like a shield where it's like one of those padded shields. We've all seen one where that's what you go against. And there's maybe 1 or 2 periods a week, which are live, where, you're actually blocking to the ground, and you'll never tackle a running back in practice, and receivers are never touched in practice. And that doesn't necessarily affect those guys because, their games are played in space. Like, receivers' games are played in space. They'll get tackled, but it's not a huge deal. But with the offensive and defensive lines, like, that is, you're in hand-to-hand combat for 4 hours a Saturday. And it's constantly that. It's constantly finishing to the ground. You see some good clips coming out of the NFL games from the last week, like guys finishing to the ground and pancaking dudes. And, like, you see those things on Twitter and then or X or whatever. And then, like, you look at an Ohio State game and, like, it's just not that. It's almost like still that camp mode feel where we like lock up and we chop our feet and then the whistle blows and you're to the next play. So how do you get out of that? Well, there's a couple things. You could turn up the intensity in practice. Like, it could be a situation where at practice this week, there is more live periods, or the offensive and defensive line specifically are, hey, we're going. You're going live. We're going through the whistle, not to the whistle. And so that's the one thing you got to incentivize the scout team for that one. They get like extra cookies at lunch or something for that. But that's one way to do it. But there's also like different incentives that you can bring the offensive line. Like, hey, pancakes are celebrated in a different way. Or, if we don't average 5 yards a carry on the ground, like something happens, you can incentivize those guys just to like snap their mindset out of it, because obviously they're not able to do it on their own, right? We're 2 weeks in. You should have absolutely bullied Youngstown State on Saturday, and you didn't. Okay, so that's the situation. That's where you're at. How do you get out of that? You got to find ways to be creative as a coaching staff to get those guys out. And maybe it is a fresh look. Maybe it is 2 new guys. Maybe Luke Montgomery and Shabola get a chance this week. But, you never know. We'll know today. I'm really curious to hear Coach Day's tone to the offensive line. He's going to get asked about it, and I'm curious to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, as soon as you brought that to mind, I know since our audience is a Buckeye audience that there was a good chance that, a good chunk of everyone saw the Battle of Ohio on Sunday, the Browns-Bengals game. And there was a play that Wyatt Teller, the right guard for the Browns, had like a 20-yard pancake. I mean, he was literally 20 yards driving his defender down the field. And I just remembered watching it. I'm like, God, that is perfect tape to show Ohio State right now. Like, I know these kids have that mentality that they can do it, but I haven't seen it. Like, go get to the second level and just take guys out of plays. They got to figure it out.
And Brennan, stuff like that in the film room is like super celebrated. So like, here's how a Sunday looks. Yeah, I would love some cold brew coffee. I looked at.
Thank you, Yakov. Yeah, some homemade cold brewed coffee sounds terrific.
Yeah, great. No, but like for perspective, like on Sunday or whenever they watch tape, you'll watch. There's a cut up. The whole team sits in the meeting room, and there's a top plays cut up. Maybe it's 5 minutes long, and it's pretty much the best plays. Okay, so it's like Marvin Harrison scoring, great play. It's some of that stuff, and guys get hooping and hollering like that's awesome. And then you split off into your groups and your rooms and watch each. Then you watch the tape. You know, you break it down. So like those big plays, I'm telling you, that block specifically was one that was in my mind. Like the Browns watched that as a team and like, hey, Wyatt, that is unbelievable, and that's how they call it out in any locker room. Like if Josh Pryor gets to the second level and buries somebody, it'll be the first play on the team tape, and everybody, JT gets hooping and hollering, Jack Sawyer, Tommy Eichenberg, they all see it and they're all like, oh, let's go. And that improves everyone's, kind of mentality. Like, hey, our boys are getting better up front. I need to be more physical on the back end or on defense or, whatever. It all plays a role together. And it's just like, how do you get those guys to flip that switch? And I'm just excited to see, how they're able to do that.